another blitz. Hurts takes it right up the gut. Touchdown Eagles. Here's the deep ball. Got hit as he let it go. Oh, Devontae Smith. What a catch. From 54 for the win. On the way. It is there. And the Eagles remain unbeaten.
What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the Flyin podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Mitchell, back with my co-host, Stephen Maslij.
Hello, Matthew. Welcome back after a great win, am I right?
Oh, the best. The Eagles pulled out quite the thrilling win against the Browns, 20-16. It was a bit of, a shaky game. Things didn't quite go the way we wanted it to. We still came out with a W. But let's hear your initial thoughts on what you thought about that game.
My initial thoughts are, why can't we get like a running game going? We don't have any rhythm to this offense. We can't get anything going in the first quarter whatsoever. Still, again, we can't score in the first quarter. We're the only team in the NFL left not to score in the first quarter, which is fantastic, by the way, with this prolific offense of all this talent. We can place blame wherever we want. And then Cooper DeJean played really well. I liked how he came in and stepped up. He had a half a sack, I think they recorded it as, but he was blitzing. He played well in coverage. He played. I liked how he played. Unfortunately, we lost Goddard, Mailata. We see his Slay's back, but Mailata's on IR for sure, and Goddard's not going to play this week. But I think this team, it was just two explosive plays by AJ and Devonta Smith. And you've been talking about the whole time across the middle, dude. Devonta Smith crossing route wide open, man. Like, I think anyone could have thrown that ball, but it's crazy because you mentioned across the middle, and Jalen has the lowest throwing rate across the middle in the entire NFL. I did not realize that, and I
also wasn't aware of that. I'm guessing we heard the same radio show hearing that stat earlier. I think it was today, actually.
We did indeed. Yeah, I mean, it's a win's a win. But this Browns team, we got sacks and everything, but this Browns team is really bad, and we should have absolutely gassed them. I was very disappointed in the win. As much as you could be disappointed in a win, I'm going to take a win every single day of the week, but it's brutal. And then, the end of the game, what did you think of Sirianni? I mean, everyone's talking about that because we can't talk about the game anymore on the radio. We got to talk about Sirianni chirping at the fans. So what do you guys say about all that?
It's clearly the elephant in Philadelphia right now. Everybody's been talking about it all week. It's been the talk of the city. It's, do we fire Nick? Do we keep Nick? Do we care about his antics? Is he doing a good job? Can he redeem himself? Yada, yada. And it's an interesting topic because obviously Sirianni is a coach that has well over a 500 winning percentage in his time as a coach. I would have to check to see what the actual stat is, but he's a very winning coach. His resume would say that he's a very good coach. But as Philadelphia fans, we've sat here for the past couple of years watching the offense start to decline. We've seen him argue with fans off to the side on the game, make himself a distraction. Obviously, this week, there was a lot of concerns with him shaving his head and then going out and talking to the fans after we won. And then in his press conference for what seemed to be an avoidance of criticism, brought his kids into the press conference. And then later in the week, he went on to say that kind of more or less blamed Jalen for the lack of change in offense. So these are all really big problems. I mean, not only has he made himself a distraction, but he's thrown his quarterback under the bus, and he's tried to lift himself up. Clearly, he is struggling with the criticism that he's receiving from Philadelphia right now, and he's doing whatever he can to, extinguish that heat from himself. But what do you think about what he said about Jalen, and what do you think about what he had to, say to the fans?
So, start with thinking about Jalen. I'm not reading too much into it. I think he's been trying to cover his bases all the time, of just trying to be on nothing, no tension against Jalen. I hate that he makes everything about him. We shouldn't be talking about him whatsoever. As a head coach, you got to be more professional than that. It's your job. You can't bring up your kids to the podium and stuff on a regular season win where you barely win. That's a playoff thing. That's people do that, but that's in big win situations and whatnot. He basically expressed himself as saying, I'm a family man. I wanted to give my kids an experience, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't the right place, right time. You got to be more professional than that. And I don't think it'll happen again. That being said, the whole situation, I heard an article that was kind of interesting. Someone wrote it in the Ringer. I'm not going to be able to find his name right now. But the entire premise of the article was that his job was on the line in this game if he lost, essentially. And I think Sirianni knew that. So him getting super hype when they did win, just in general, he knew his job was saved. And it kind of makes sense. I mean, I don't know if I completely buy it, but like that's why he had that extra hype, that extra like, let's go. And
you're allowed to listen, man. You're allowed to have hype without making it about you. Like he didn't have to turn around and yell at fans. He could have gotten hype for the cameras, sure. You know, talk to the team, talk to the players, talk to the coaches, get hype around them. You don't turn around and talk crap to the fans. It's not only a bad look, but it's just like why? It comes off immature, it comes off childish, and clearly it's what everybody in Philadelphia has been talking about all week. If anything, he's more on the hot seat now than he was going into last game. And it's hard to, we're already dealing with a team that's struggling and a team that's been trying to find their identity. And Nick Sirianni is trying to make their identity him. And like you said, I understand that he's under a lot of heat, a lot of pressure. It's hard to go into a job knowing that you might get fired at any time. And it's hard walking around every day hearing all the crap that Philadelphia has to talk about him. I get that. But it is something that you signed up for. You get paid millions of dollars to be a professional in this job and to be the man responsible for an entire NFL team. It is something that he signed up for, that he was prepared for. Oh, I shouldn't even say prepared for because clearly he's not. But like, this is something that comes with a job expectation, and he's handling it very poorly. I understand that it's not easy to hear all this criticism and to hear all the remarks that are getting said about him. People are far too harsh about him. But when we've been witnessing the exact same offense fail for the last 3 years with no adjustments, when you see him talking crap to opposing teams' fans and our fans and just what we call sideline antics from him at this point, and to see that he's clearly very, very sensitive about everything that he's receiving right now, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. It's very, very unprofessional and something that, no offense, he shouldn't be getting paid millions of dollars to do. So, like, I'm just going to jump. Actually, you seem like you got something to say. So
One more point, just play devil's advocate. Just as a human, it's hard to tell someone not to be themselves. And I understand that was the point of like his passion and fire. You could say that, and I completely agree with you. By the way, like I'm just trying to make a counterpoint a little bit of that. He hears all that. It just gets to him. I know. Maybe he's in the guy to be a head coach then. Exactly, but that's kind of what we recognize him as, and obviously he kind of pandered on like wearing the Philly stuff like as soon as he got here and all that stuff. But it's kind of just like who he is, and we kind of hate it now. I mean, it was kind of fun when you're winning because winning cures all, but it's just like we honestly, like as Philadelphia fans in general, it stinks that we have to talk about this for 6 minutes. It really does. Like we shouldn't be talking about this.
No, it would be one thing if we won the game definitively for him to act like that, but to be in a close game with one of the league's worst teams in the league, and to act like high and mighty the way he did was kind of brutal to watch. We really struggled. We almost blew the game away. And to be fair, we're going to get into this game, but like, I do think that a lot of people overreacted to how close the score was. The blocked kick for a touchdown is a freak incident to happen. I do want to get into that briefly when we start talking about the game. But I do want to point out that there's other guys in the league that show their fire without acting like Sirianni does. I mean, you can go ahead. We've been listening to WIP all week, and they're a big listening point for a lot of Philadelphia fans. And Dan Campbell was brought up a lot of times this week. because Dan Campbell is another guy that is himself, does himself, and plays with coaches with a fire under his his hat, and
10 Red Bulls a day.
yes. But like, you see that fire in him, and you see the way that he acts himself, but he still holds a professional standard to himself, and he's never gotten into it with fans, and he's never gotten into it with players, and he knows how to conduct his fire in the right direction. And that's the problem with Sirianni right now. He's got that fire, and it's okay to have that fire. I don't mind if you're a scrappy guy that wants to show energy and hypeness, when you get a win. But show it to the right people. Show it in the right places. You do have a job description as a coach, and it's to be the most responsible guy out there, more or less. And he's acting like a child. I mean, just jumping right to the chase, I do want to hear what you think. I mean, do you or do you not like Sirianni as a coach, and do you think that we should make a change at some point, whether it's this season or at the end?
We are not able to fire him during this season currently, or else this team will fall apart, because us talking about this right now is only going to expedite. It's going to be the entire thing for the next 2 weeks and this and that. Do you put Kellen Moore there? Whatever. We cannot fire him right now. We can't fire him during this season. If we are, which I think we're going to progress to be a winning football team. I believe. I still believe that in my heart, but we can't fire him right now. It's more of a distraction than anything to me. If you fire him right now, you can't do that. It's not even on the table.
But you don't think that if you look at the offense and you look how Jalen before the season was talking about how 90% of the offense was different, and then we come into the season, here we are now 6 weeks in, and it's the exact same offense we watched last year, which leads us to believe that he's been the play caller all along.
It has
So do you not think that, and this isn't me saying that I want him gone, I'm just bringing up the hypothetical. Do you not think that if he were to go this week, get, thrown in the trash can, Kellen Moore becomes the guy, do you not think that we see changes to this offense?
What can Kellen Moore not do right now? Like, I don't know the power structure. I don't know all of that. And then we're going to.
I think that's the problem that's irritating Philadelphia so much, is that we keep being told one thing and then seeing another thing, and we don't know what the truth is. And there's been so much going on behind the scenes this year that we just don't get to know about. The whole Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts relationship, the whole Devin White thing, the offensive play calling. Clearly, you even get to go and say that Nick Sirianni in his press conference said that he called a defensive play. And then Fangio came out and shut that down and said, no, he didn't. What are we talking about? Like, what's happening? What are we covering up? What are we getting actual truthful knowledge as fans? And when is this whole thing going to turn around? Like, what are we, how long are we going to sit here and wait for it to just happen?
I mean, it's weird. And then I heard another thing that a reporter commented on, that he has an open door policy this week. Did you hear about that?
I did not.
Basically, he's allowing players. Well, I don't know, but Saquon spoke on it. Lane Johnson. I forgot the other two, but they're the starters. I forget which ones. I don't want to. But Lane Johnson and Saquon basically talked about how he's having an open door policy of letting the players come in and show what they think about the game and show how they could fix things. What do you think about that? And Becton was one of them too, and he said the Jets would never do this. Saquon said they did it in the Giants playoff run the one year. He said it worked really well. What do you think about all that, especially hearing that after this? Do you like that? I know you played at the collegiate level. Is that everything you experienced in your life, where the coach will go over film and you can talk it out of what happened? I don't know why that's really being said, but I kind of find it just that Sirianni's kind of weak for that. But what do you think about that?
I don't think that he's weak for that. If anything, I think that that's the kind of thing that should always be open to players. Like, I don't think that players should ever be able to say, we should be doing this, we should be doing that. But I do think that I don't think you could ever go wrong with hearing more opinions on what you can do better. Now, the next part of that is how much Sirianni is actually taking that into consideration and how much he's just doing it to look like he's trying to make a difference. And that we'll get to see as we watch the rest of this season, because they have made it very difficult to have a lot of faith in this team. I do still think that they're they're a top tier talented team. And because of that, they have a ton of potential with where they can go in this season. But, as we watch these weeks, we haven't seen them get any better. And they make pretty brutal mistakes. And because of their talent, they get away with it sometimes. But it's not something that can keep up into the postseason when we get to face these other teams that are playing great offense and defense and clicking as a whole. And we are not. So I do want to, if we start seeing changes and we start seeing things, switch up a little bit, then maybe we can say it was a good thing. But it's just so hard to know what the truth is behind all these actions with the way they've been, doing things this year and the way they've been so secretive behind the scenes. And I truthfully don't know what to expect from this football team. I think that everybody in Philadelphia is talking about the exact same things. And for none of these guys to be hearing that, I'd find to be a shock. I think that everybody in the world is saying the same things that we've been talking about on this podcast for weeks. Run the ball early and often. Line up under center. Start running rollout passes and play actions. Throw the ball over the middle. Run short routes to Devontae and A.J. Brown and let them do the work with their feet.
Dude, the Super Bowl year, the play action slant play for A.J. was so prominent in his offense, and I don't know why they ever got rid of it.
There's no reason. There was never any reason to get rid of it. It worked. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We know that. It's a saying as old as time. So why have we not seen it in 3 years?
I don't know.
And that's the problem, is that we sit here and it looks like an obvious fix to all of us, but for whatever reason, it's not for them. And we don't know why that is. And it's frustrating as a fan to sit here and watch it, because is it the coach? Is it Jalen Hurts? Is it, Jeffrey and Howie? I really don't know. I don't know who's to blame, and I don't know who's stopping it from happening. But unfortunately, another part of Nick Sirianni's job is that it all falls on him. It does. Because he's the only one that's supposed to be able to make changes to things, and he doesn't. We see the exact same thing every single week, and there's no adjustments. Well, I apologize, actually. That's not the truth. There are adjustments, but they end up falling down in another spot once they fix one thing. Fix one thing, another light goes out, And Jordan Mailata was talking about that and saying that it's an execution issue, but it's a different execution issue every week. And that's still the coach's job to fix. If it's an execution issue from everybody on the team, then it means that the coaches are not preparing them for these games, at least not well enough. And I so badly just wish I knew what was going on behind those locker doors.
Well, let's just start at the simplest thing ever. Their first 15 plays are usually scripted, right? Most coaches, I'm not saying every coach, but so that shows you that we haven't scored in the first quarter at all. So no adjustments are being made at all during the entire week to make a game plan where we have 15 of our best plays to come out and essentially what would crush the other defense. We haven't scored in the first quarter, telling me that has to be a little bit of coaching. I know Jalen hasn't played the best. He didn't have any turnover this game. Positive note. But that first quarter, it just that has to be. It has to. It's just the only logical thing to me is that it's coaching. And I don't know if it's Kellen Moore. I don't know if it's Sirianni, but it has to be a little bit of the coaching and the play calling, because
I have to assume it's Sirianni, because we've seen a Kellen Moore offense before. We've seen a Sirianni offense before. We are still watching the Sirianni offense. I have not seen any of the things that I heard from Kellen Moore being implemented into this offense. I haven't. Hearing about all these motion plays, yada, yada, the short passes, throwing the ball out of the backfield, everything we were hearing in preseason and in the summer. I have not seen any of those things happen. I'm seeing the exact same offense we've watched for 3 years. And it's getting tiring. You want to say, and the part that's confusing is that a lot of people like to say that they're doing this because it's comfortable for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts sure as hell doesn't look comfortable.
No.
I've seen Jalen Hurts look comfortable in that 2022 offense. And this ain't it. It ain't the same. We're not playing to Jalen Hurts' strengths. So who is the one making these gosh darn calls? It has to be Sirianni, in my opinion. But I just don't know. And I hate to sit here and trash the guy and, make him sound like he's some bad coach because the players have a lot of faith in him. But and he's a winning coach. And I get it that he's had a really good team to work with. But other coaches that have had really good teams to work with don't always end up with the same record that he's had in his tenure. So, it's hard to knock him entirely, but it's also hard to deny, the facts that are coming up and what we've watched for the past 3 years.
I mean, I think the most frustrating part was that our defense let up 3 field goals in this game, and our offense just can't click against the Browns defense that's been struggling. I know Myles Garrett been out, but he had to key in on him a little. I mean, he didn't do much. On a stat sheet per se, but he was getting in Jalen's face a lot. He was getting there, but it just.
Oh my gosh! While we're on the sorry, I just need to say this. Get it.
Yeah, I know. I was going to lead into.
While we're on the topic of Myles Garrett, 2 things. A, can we not run a read option towards Myles Garrett and leave him unblocked ever? Why was that ever a thing? Why was that ever a thing? That happened so many times in this game. If they're going to leave, I understand how read options work. I understand I understand that you leave the read guy open. Don't run it to Myles Garrett's side. God forbid. Myles Garrett is the defensive player of the year. He's the best defensive player in the NFL. It didn't work once. Why did we run it 5 more times?
You think I have an answer for this? You think I have anything? Any logical person would be like, why would you do that? I understand the whole point of the read option, and if you do it once and it works, sure, keep doing it.
If it never worked once, then why do you keep running it? What makes you think you're randomly going to switch up?
Myles Garrett obviously has shown that he is so keen in on the read option. He literally watches them. He's so good at watching the ball. He's a top 3 defender, D lineman in this league. It's not
top 3 defender in this league. He's a top. He might be he's a top 2 defender in this league. But regardless, it was really frustrating to watch that. And the last thing I do want to say about the Browns game, and you don't even have to answer me on it. I just want to point out that it frustrated me that they made all these rules about not being able to jump over the line on kicks. And now there's this little loophole where you can jump through the gap. Are we kidding? Are we kidding? We're just that better be talked about in the offseason because he's still jumping over players. Not to mention that they're having the guy next to them grab the guy and pull him down so that he can jump over.
Yeah.
I don't see how that's any different than what they tried to outlaw years ago.
Well, it's not that.
I just had to point that out and get that off my chest. But I do think that it's about time we moved on to what we have coming up this week in the New York Giants. Obviously, it's a fun one, a division rival, but it doesn't feel as safe as we'd like to say it would be as fans. What do you think about this game?
It's a Saquon revenge game. Everyone knows that. But the thing about the Giants is they have a pretty good D-line. I mean, Thibodeau's not playing this week, but you still have Brian Burns on the outside, and you have Dexter Lawrence in the middle, who's been amazing. I knew he was banged up this week, but I think he's ready to play. League Neighbors back this week. I don't think this Giants team is good at all. And me and you both talked about how we don't think the Giants are a good team at all. But, man, if I could tell you that we're going to win this game confidently, you got me effed up in the head, man. I can't – I don't even know why. It's just this we should have Saquon murder them. And Saquon probably would love to. And I really hope we were able to establish a run on them and get the ball downfield and just exploit the secondary, have Danny Dimes turn over the ball. It would be fantastic. Why would that not happen? I don't know.
Well, I'll say one thing first. I do think that with Saquon coming back, as much as I do want to see a revenge game out of him, I think it's also a revenge game for them. And I think that the last thing they want is to have Saquon run all over them. So I do think that a key for their defense is going to be to stop Saquon and put the ball in Jalen's hands and try to force turnovers. So I do think that they're going to be keying on the run game, and they're going to try to take the run game out of it. With that being said, doesn't mean I don't want to see Saquon. But please throw the ball to Devontae and AJ over the damn middle. excuse my language, try not to curse on here, apologies, but like, please do what works. It's really not rocket science, and I feel like they're trying to overthink themselves out of everything over there. Throw the ball to Devontae and AJ over the middle. Then you run the ball with Saquon, let him get a few yards, Like, do it in chunks. It doesn't have to be big plays. Just get the offense flowing. Get a rhythm going. Do something that makes everyone feel a little more comfortable. I've never seen a more unrhythmic offense in my life, I feel. Despite, I don't even think it's not the worst offense I've ever seen, but the lack of comfortability from this offense is almost hard to believe sometimes. So,
I mean, yeah. Like, you're talking even at the end of the game, that pass to AJ to seal it. Like, dude, like,
if that wasn't AJ, that play's not being made. Like,
exactly. Like, I understand, like, it works and everything, but you have the 2-minute warning, and you just, like, if he doesn't catch that ball, you just you should be running. You should get the ball into space, and I don't mind passing there, but you got to make it complete, like 100%. But regardless, this Giants team is pretty good. I mean, they just played the Bengals. That was one of the worst football games that I watched, and it was disgusting to watch. Joe Burrow was their leading rusher with that really long rush from the 50-yard line. The Giants,
they've got a good defense. Let's not, sugarcoating. They have a good defense. They have a good defense. They have a good defense. Listen, the Bengals, I understand the Bengals have had their struggles this year, but I wouldn't say the Bengals offense has had their struggles this year. The Bengals offense has been putting up points this year, and they didn't against the Giants. The Giants looked good in that game defensively, defensive line and secondary. However, I do think that their offense is pretty crappy. Not only are they crappy to begin with, but they're missing one or two of their tackles. I forget. Is it both tackles or is it just Andrew Thomas?
I think it's just Andrew Thomas.
Either way, you're missing your top tackle.
Yeah. We
need to put pressure on Daniel Jones. It's something we've had trouble with all year, but this is an already struggling offensive line with their top end offensive lineman out of the game. You need to get pressure on Daniel Jones and make him make mistakes because he will. We know he will. And the defense has to have a big game to win this game. I as much as I would love to say we can rely on the offense, it's been proven so far that we can't. And I hope that changes this week. I hope that we come out and see a 35-14 kind of win this week. It would be awesome. But I don't think there's a single person in Philadelphia that can say they're confident in something like that happening. So the defense has to step up this week. The defense is what's going to have to keep us in this game because their defense is pretty good and our offense has been struggling. It's not a good recipe for putting up a lot of points. So the defense is going to have to step up, and hopefully we see adjustments out of the offense. I did hear that they were practicing taking snaps under center this week, which is decent news. It doesn't mean much yet, but it's something that we like to hear. At least it's a step in the right direction. But it's just not that difficult to run a pro style offense. I mean, no offense to Jalen Hurts, as much as I love him, and I will always stand by Jalen Hurts. I still think he's the guy. He's got to be willing to adjust, and if he's not, then really he shouldn't be a professional athlete. And I know that's incredibly harsh, but as a professional athlete, you have a job to do, and the job is to do what it takes to win. And if you're just not comfortable with taking snaps under center, and you're just I don't like that, and it's hurting the team, then he shouldn't be the guy.
Do we know he's doing that? The problem is we don't know what's happening.
Exactly. We don't know that. And that's why I don't want to, throw any shade at anybody particularly yet. You can't just single it out towards anybody. But I do think that we've watched a lot of Jalen Hurts offenses over the years, and I've never seen him take snaps under center. So
he doesn't like it.
With the evidence, I think it's fair to say that he doesn't like being under center. But I think that he's got to adjust to that and do what it takes to win football games. And I know that he's capable. I know he's always looking for ways to get better and to do better for the team. And I know that he's a winner. He's proven that he's a winner over his whole career, even at the worst times with the Eagles. We've never been under 10 wins with him, I don't think. Maybe the one year, his rookie year. Either way, he's a winning football player. I don't think he's ever been under 500 in his whole career. So he's got to do what it takes. And on top of that, we got to see more responsibility out of Sirianni to also do what it takes to push his pride under the bus and, do what it takes to win games, even if that means not being himself. I'm sick of, I do love the comfortability for everybody to be themselves and do what's best for them, but it ain't working. So we got to make changes, and people got to look in the mirror, put on their big boy shoes, and change things up.
Yeah. And this we have to score. I mean, you said the key to the game is going to be our defense. I think it's 100% has to be the offense. I mean, the Giants haven't let up more than 21 points in the past 5 weeks. They've been really good, but we got to get out and get going quick. If we can, Matt, may I say it? Can we score in the first quarter? Maybe.
I do think that you're going to see a little bit of urgency out of them to make that happen, because beforehand it was just a Philadelphia conversation. Like it was just radio shows and local TV stations talking about it. Now it's starting to get on a national level. Now you've got ESPN shows talking about it and Sports Center, and they have put themselves on a national scale of mediocrity right now. So I think that there has to be some urgency out of these guys to prove otherwise, because they should be able to prove otherwise. They are better than this. We've witnessed it. We've seen the potential that they have. They are better than this, and they are one of the most talented teams in the entire NFL. They need to start acting like it.
Maybe if we just stop throwing deep shots randomly, it doesn't make any sense when we throw them to AJ. Yeah, it works sometimes because he's AJ Brown. But what if we have a 8-yard gain, 11-yard gain, 5-yard gain? We had a drive like that against the Saints at the end, but it was ugly. Even those drives that we have that are rhythmic and on paper look good. If you read the play script, it's like a 3-yard run, 5-yard pass. It looked horrible.
It's difficult because when you look back at that 2022 offense, we were sitting here on the podcast saying, "Hey, why don't you just occasionally throw the ball up to AJ? He'll probably go get it."
And that's
but
fine.
Now we're in a different situation now, though. Now we're in a situation where we need to see consistency out of the offense, and you don't want to just see chucked up balls to AJ Brown because it's too iffy. It was fine when we were running a fluent offense, and we are not anymore. So I agree with you. I do want to see them stop trying to throw deep shots all the time. Maybe once, maybe at most twice a game. I want to see clicking offense where they're picking up chunks of yards. I don't care if it's 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, and a tush push. I really don't. But I want to see fluent movement out of this offense. I hate seeing the stallness that we've been dealing. I know that's not a word. The stalling that we've been dealing with in this offense this year.
Well, Daniel Jones hasn't thrown a touchdown at home, so maybe he'll just continue that streak, which would be awesome.
Would be nice, but I suppose we'll see. So
how do you see this game going overall? And what's your score prediction?
I mean, it's hard to believe that we'll see a high-scoring game out of either side of this team of this game. And I do think that both teams are going to play hard because it's a divisional game. So, truthfully, I'm expecting at most 24-17, but I'm expecting a more realistic 21 to, I guess it's about the same. I don't know. I'm thinking I'm going to say 24-17. I'm going to stick with that, I think. But you see that I'm struggling here to find, I don't have confidence in saying anything particularly this year because they're very unpredictable. I've seen games even this year where the defense has played well and the offense played bad, and a game where the offense played well and the defense played bad. You don't really know what kind of ball you're going to see out of these guys right now. So it's very hard to predict where they're going to go with it, but I'm going to stick with 24-17. I still think that we're pulling out a win.
The offense shall explode this week because everyone thinks it's not going to explode. I don't actually believe what I'm saying right now, but we are going to win. It's so sad. We're going to win 31-21. I believe that Saquon is going to have a touchdown. He's going to get his touchdown. Instead of doing a tush push, we're going to give it to Saquon, and they're going to be really hyped. I really hope that we involve everyone in the offense. I hope we get Dotson the ball a little bit. That'd be cool. I hated seeing the whole, what did the Jets trade for Devontae Adams, and what did the Bills get for Amari Cooper? And it's like less than what we gave up for Dotson. And that really pissed me off this week. So to see that from a Giants fan.
Yeah, but that's the story tells. I mean, the paper looks different than the story actually tells.
Because
obviously Devontae is 32 years old with a massive contract, and Amari Cooper is also on a massive contract. So it's
but when a Giants fan sends it to you, it makes you feel a little angry.
Giants fans have nothing to talk about. I don't care how bad we are; they're worse. I mean, they can't. They're living in misery over there, so they're trying to spread it elsewhere.
They're bad. Their defense played decent.
I'm not gonna lie though. Have you heard about the rumors that they're fan rumors? So it's nothing to heavily bite at. But I have seen it from both sides of fandoms. What do you think would happen if they make a trade for Matthew Stafford?
The Giants?
Mm-hmm. I've seen a Rams report saying that if they don't feel that they're in a winning situation this year, that they could move on from him. And I've seen the other side of it where Giants fans are desperately calling for getting a guy like Matthew Stafford from a team that is struggling this year, that isn't in a position to win. It would be interesting. I'll say that much.
I mean, you're 2-4 right now. If they lose this game, Matthew Stafford is not going to help. He's going to help the Rams just as much as he helps you.
Would you not feel more comfortable in a position, like down the line?
I don't see that happening in the slightest. They already paid Daniel Jones. They're going to stick with him until they can draft Arch Manning, and then.
Well, it's beyond clear that they don't want to stick with Daniel Jones. I mean, yes,
are the Rams going to take his contract?
No, you wouldn't be trading Daniel Jones. You wouldn't necessarily be trading Daniel Jones to them.
So you're going to pay both your quarterbacks. You're going to pay Stafford his salary of whatever it is a year. I'm sure it's not cheap, and you're going to pay Daniel Jones.
Unfortunately, you don't have a choice with the Daniel Jones thing. But
I don't think they're good enough to ever trade for a quarterback.
I suppose we'll see. I think that their defense is legit. I think that you're heavily underrating their entire defense.
Yeah, Dexter Lawrence might be the best D lineman in the NFL right now, but I don't really care. Actually, he is the best D lineman in the NFL, which stinks. And I admitted that and I said he was not a top 10 player in the top 100. He's probably the best D lineman in the NFL. He is. He's 100% is, which stinks. I hate it. I hate Giants. I don't want to lose this game. I really, really hope that – I think Fred Johnson's going to play well. I think our O-line can hold up. I'm scared that Cam Jurgens going to struggle against Dexter Lawrence.
I'm a little scared about Fred Jackson, just due to the fact that he himself admitted that he's a right tackle and he doesn't really feel that comfortable on the left side. So it's a little bit concerning.
Nah, it's fine.
But – we'll see how it goes. He stepped in really well in his last game, and he looked really good. And he's the kind of guy that's biting at the bit for an opportunity at all times. So he's going to go out there and try to prove himself. So hopefully he can do that.
The wrong coach ever to prepare him for it. Now we're going to kill this team. I don't want it to be close.
I sure hope so, because there's a chance if we come back on next week with a loss, the podcast might be over. We might just go home, not come back. Might not talk about this team ever again. I don't know yet. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to deal with. But I'm still going to stand behind my team. I still have confidence in them. The Eagles are majorly talented, and that will absolutely hold them afloat. I just hope that somewhere along this line, they can address these problems and just get it fixed, because I still have full confidence that they're capable of being a Super Bowl caliber team this year if they make the proper adjustments. But it's hard to expect that with what we've seen so far.
It's hard to expect it. And whenever you're down on a Philly team, whenever you have hope, that is when they come through for you. Whenever you don't have hope. Whenever you don't have hope, they come through for you. Whenever you have hope, they take it away and they burn it and they stomp on you until you cry.
That's a little bit of recency bias from my co-host over here. So
no, it's not. I'm not sad about the Phillies. I'm not sad about the Phillies.
I didn't say how recent. It's like a 5-year recency bias, but
I'm still mad about the Phillies this year.
Not bad. But thank you guys for coming along for this episode. We appreciate it. Hopefully we can come back to you next week with a big W and talking about what the Eagles did well rather than what they did wrong. So please feel free to tune in again next week for updates and reviews of the game and previews of the upcoming game. And if you did enjoy this video, please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. We always appreciate you guys giving us appreciation and, sticking with us and checking out the videos. So thank you guys very much. And hopefully, like we said, we'll be back next week talking about the good things.
Positive. We're a positive podcast.
We're positive in Philadelphia.
Go Birds.
Go Birds. We'll see you guys next week.